Right, okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast, the very first one. We'll see how this goes. It could go really well. It could go really poorly. People I've got in here with me right now are Garfield, Legendo, and Slick. The topic, or the main topic of today, is the squad server that we got started up yesterday, which was the 26th of September. So, yeah, basically, we're going to talk about, sort of what squad is, similarities to armor, the differences to armor, sort of explain what the rules are, and then open it up to questions of people in the TeamSpeak and some people in chat if it's so needed. So yeah, if somebody wants to start off with sort of talking about what squad is, feel free.
I can lay out. Basically, squad is a team-based kind of like Arma-esque and kind of like Battlefield-esque first-person shooter, where you have vehicles, all sorts of variations, like Humvees, armed personnel carriers, aka APCs, IVs, all sorts of things. It's even tanks as well, and they're adding helicopters. The objective, or the entire core basis of the game, is basically you're playing in a squad, as the game is called Squad, and it's supposed to promote teamwork in order for you to complete various objectives and other sorts of accomplishments you would get from the game.
Okay, so like you mentioned how obviously the whole team based idea is this game is extremely team based. Like if you run off on your own, you are going to be about as useful as an inflatable dartboard.
Yeah, pretty much. You can't do anything by your own. You have to rely on your teammates. Because either you're all by yourself and you run into like maybe 9 people in the squad that are like really well orientated on their strengths and weaknesses and know how to fucking cooperate, then yeah, they can actually do some havoc and change like that's how the game goes compared to one guy, because you can only do so much when you're alone.
Okay.
As well as one of
Yeah.
those things of the KD isn't everything with this, but I know when I've been doing squad lead in the past, and this thing, it's I don't care. You have a marksman, you killed 2 people, we still lost the objective because there was no one there.
Yeah, this is very much a you do have to play the objective. And obviously there's different ways to play the objective. Like you don't always have to be on it to be playing it, but you can't be I guess what you would call almost like the battlefield style of like the marksman sitting up on a fucking hill, you know, 600 meters away, plinking shots at people and claim that you're defending the objective because that's just not going to work. Like there's not that much I would call like fully open ground for you to like see people moving through. Like there's a lot of long grass, buildings, like depending on what map you're playing on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it doesn't necessarily have to be well, I would call it more concealment than actual cover. So, if you've got a marksman that's sitting 600-700 meters away, I mean it is possible, don't get me wrong, but the likelihood of it happening is slim to none.
One other thing you gotta consider as well is the fact that you have to be in a squad to get a class/loadout. So even if you wanted to be a marksman or someone that just likes to plant mines in all sorts of various spots on the map, you have to be in a squad, and then you have to go through like some certain criteria to get to that certain role, because there's like a hierarchy and you can get a role in.
Yeah, so like what are people's opinions on how Squad seems to do that? As in like they almost well they are basically forcing you like if you want to be anything other than a just a basic grunt, you have to actually participate in the squad.
I like them very much, considering the fact that I have played Battlefield for almost like 5 to 6 years now, and I know how it feels when there's like a sniper and some fuck off end of the map, just doing nothing but just sit there. It's refreshing. I like this style. It forces you to actually engage in your team and try to complete objectives together,
Garfield
compared to
opinion.
just sitting back there.
Yes. So on my side of it, it does pretty much mirroring what Legendo just said there. It does in a way force you to do. So it also does force you to play in certain styles, depending on how big your team is. If you've got a team of 4 guys, you'll be doing different sort of things than what you'd be doing if you got a full squad. If you've got a full squad, you can set a little bit more complex things just within your squad. Whereas if you're just a team, you will have to work with other teams elsewhere as well as another part of it.
Yeah, like there seems to be a whole like you work together as a squad, and then the squads all work together. So you're almost just the like as just one member, you're a very very tiny piece of that puzzle to actually work towards basically getting anything done in that game. Like I said, like being solo, you can do very little, if anything at all, to affect the grand scheme of the game itself. Like, if you're on your own, you might as well be pissing in the wind.
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah.
you get dumpstered by other
Yeah.
organized squads.
You may take like as it was said earlier, you may take 1 or 2 out, but then you'll just get rolled by the other 6 or 7 that were left. And then you've left like an entire flank open because you weren't able to tell anyone that there were enemies coming. You had no backup, you had no cover, no nothing. So, and even if you,
ticket.
yeah, exactly, and you burn, yes, obviously that's what we're actually going to move into now, talking about the game modes and how the game modes sort of work. So, if somebody wants to sort of take that away, feel free.
I can do that since I suggested the modes. Currently, our server, we have 2 modes enabled. We have Advanced and Secure. In short, it's called AAS. And the mode basically regards is if you play Conquest before, you have like all these like objectives on the map, but they're not really gonna get categorized in like A, B, C, and D. They're just like flag markers on the map, and they're all connected in some kind of a chain. So in order for you to capture an objective, you need to like follow the chain, because you can't just go to like the middle objective, cap that, and just move on from there. No, you have to start from the beginning end and then move towards their end of the flags, essentially.
Okay, so you'd sort of say you have to do it in a way like almost to try and keep your supply line connected.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
So there are some. Sorry,
no,
go.
no, it's fine, Karen.
So yeah, there are some maps where you will already start with some flags already captured, so with your supply chain working already, and then you'll have other maps where there's you have your base, and then the rest of it is just blank, and then so a lot of strategies seem to work around get a front line up and then just leave a single squad to go and get your supply line going and set up a defensive line ahead. But they can't capture anything, the guys at the front, until the guys at the back do something.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no. Would you say though it's a viable tactic to send people like further ahead to maybe just try and hinder the advance of the enemy, or do you think it's better to just try and grab as many of the points together like as quickly as possible, or do you reckon there could be a mixture of the two, or like
it's a mixture of the two? You've got some maps that do favour sort of moving or effectively as a wall and moving forward, and then you've got some of them where it's very useful to get some setup of a base. Which I'm guessing we will come back to in a bit on sort of the base building and that side of things.
Yeah.
And then as that progresses, the more and more you put onto it, you can then basically make a very defensible front line. And the sooner you get a good position, the sooner you can get that going, and the sooner you can hold the line.
Yeah. So, is there things like fire support sort of things in the game yet, or is that something that is a potential future thing? Or
there is artillery in the form of mortars. It is a bit of a pain to get used to initially, as it does take a lot of practice, and it is very, very important to have someone to provide BDAs.
Okay, so it isn't just fire and forget and find out in 10 minutes whether you actually landed your rounds. Like you'll need on the almost at the time battle damage
Pretty much to
assessments,
be
etc.
effective.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get away without it, but at that point, what's the point in you doing it?
Yeah. So
It's really easy to learn though, because I think yesterday I had a member who was like first time playing squad. He wondered like how motors exactly worked, and I just gave him the ropes. I basically told him I put an objective marker here. It tells you the distance down in your like your bearing compass, and like for example, it said 300, and there's a range table on the actual motor that says, okay, if it's 300, then set the range to this, like in terms of like inclination and shit. he did that and he hit right on point. So it's really easy to learn. There isn't any like learning curve as such to using mortars or any vehicle for that matter. All it requires really is just a like just teamwork, because yeah, like you said, you can't just have the guy in the mortar just yeeting shells without actually knowing if he's actually hitting or not. So communication here is key, either with other squads that call in for fire support, or if you have forward observers.
Okay. So this brings us on to like the next topic of do do you think that in that regard of like the communication teamwork sort of stuff that it's similar to how armor is or how we do armor anyway in sort of the mil simmy casually sort of way we do things? Like would you consider it similar, like even more in depth, less in depth? Like how do you guys feel like that sort
I
of
would say
like
it's similar. It's similar, but it's more casual, because here I would do it in our armor server. We usually know we have like an Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie squad, and squad instead we just use numbers based off the like the amount of squads we have. So we usually just say, hey, squad 1 to 2, you can just move here and kill this BMP, and they like say, yeah, sure, and it's really casual comms, and you can see who's talking to who as well, and you don't need to learn like any kind of like military term either. It's really casual, so it's milsim. There's like some milsim here and there, like some
Like an
traits,
arcade?
but yeah, it's like really arcadish. It's really chill.
okay, so would you say that like what sort of similarities would you say there is to armor, or at least how once again how we play armor? Because obviously how other play communities and places play armor is obviously either slightly or completely different to how we do. Would you say there are similarities, or would you say this is a whole different beast in itself?
I would say there's two similarities. It's just communication between squads. There's a similarity there, and the fact that there's a squad leader organizing his own squad and just paves the way for the map how he wants to complete objectives.
Okay.
So in terms of armor, we have a platoon lead that tells you exactly what to do, but in squad, you're more independent in your squad.
Yeah. Like I find that you sometimes get that one guy that will almost be a pseudo platoon, but he's a squad leader of one of the squads, but will still be like, hey, we need squad 3 to go over there because we need that flank sort of reinforced, or something along those lines. You'll get someone that will realize that there's not many orders going out and will try and at least organize it roughly, at least, so there's not just everybody just headless chickens just running left, right, up, down. So I feel like that usually tends to fall on like just somebody taking charge of it, not necessarily somebody being put into a role like we do in armor, where obviously we ask for somebody to take platoon and is like that. It usually just falls on someone either subconsciously or consciously turns around and says, right, somebody needs to organize this, and there you go, away, and it's sort of away he goes.
Yeah, and suppose on top of that as well as an alternative that there are maybe there will be some. Still, this is still early days here, but some places where they'll have a bit more organized squad events where they might try and get a few more people in on a regular basis. They may just have the very first squad is effectively the guy in charge of everything, and then
Yeah.
a couple of guys to keep him company so he's not lonely.
Yeah. So
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 that's
when
not something you see public.
yeah, so when because obviously our server's going to be public, and most of the time it will be used publicly, like anybody could join. Obviously, of course, as long as they don't break any rules or anything like that, which we will get into soon. But yeah, like if we do decide to do things like as a community thing, there is a chance that we will organize, having someone that takes control of the squads in general, whether he's just in his own squad and then obviously just talks to the other squads like what we have as a platoon in armor, and things like that. But yeah, for the most part, with that, it is, as was said earlier, is more casual, and people are more take it by choice than are almost somewhat forced into it at times.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, as seeing as we mentioned it, we should probably move on to the rule sort of side of things, which Legendo, you obviously wrote basically all of the rules for our server. Obviously, some of them are just general rules that Squad, I believe, enforced themselves that you must have. I believe, is that so? Am I correct in saying that, or?
Yeah, they've been noted, but it's only for something for administrators to see only. But they have been noted down in our own like a rule page.
Okay.
So we have basically two sets of rules. We have like admin rules for ourselves, what we need to be like aware of when we do our administrative work. And then we have like the public rules, which is like for the public side to see only because they don't need to read the rest of it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So yeah, if you want to sort of take away, just give us a very basic rundown of the rules. You don't have to go into massive amount of detail, but yeah, just give us a general sort of, this is what you should do, this is what you really shouldn't do. Go for like some of the extreme ones, just so people understand that if you do this, you will be banned without an appeal, without any sort of argument. You're just gone.
Yep. Well, we got like the standard rules, like we got the racism rule, hate speech rule, and the friendly fire rules, which I don't really need to explain why it's there, so you should know that. The one rule though I would really like to enforce is the fact that you need to listen to your squad leader all the time. Because multiple times you see people run off on their own, they're doing their own thing, and it's pretty pointless playing a game called Squad if you're not actually participating in your squad. So if the guy doesn't, listen to your squad leader, he goes like lone wolfing and shit, then yeah, he's gonna get outright fucking kicked or just warned, whatever the case might be. Something else more important as well is the fact that I think most of us that play squad have had our FOBs built. And there's like resources and supplies in FOBs, and sometimes people can just go to an FOB and start like building all sorts of like random things that doesn't help anyone or just waste ammo. So the rule behind that one is the fact that you need to get the rights from the actual squad that made the FOB to pretty much using their resources. Because the idea was that whoever squad makes the FOB has a full right to basically do whatever they want with the FOB. So this is the rule to prevent trolls, basically, to just ruin their game. Another rule I like to enforce as well is the fact that there's no one-man squads. Again, this is like I said before with the squad lead thing. We don't want anyone to run off on their own, just be a one-man army because it doesn't make sense in this game. But the only way you're ever allowed to do like a one-man squad thing is the fact that if you want to do things like logistic runs, which is also named in the rules as well. So if you're just a one man, just like to do logistic runs for your FOB buddies, then it's completely fine, but just make sure you're only doing logistic runs back and forth. So if you lose your truck, you have to wait back at base for your truck.
Okay, so just quickly, to cut in there, like what sort of things would you do as a logistic person? Like what is your role as a logistics person?
Logistic person basically be if I need to bring up an example, like logistic person can call in maybe like any squad that needs supplies, like either building supplies or ammunition supplies. They can just call in like, hey, do you guys need something? And then the squad will reply, yeah, we need some ammunition or building supplies. And then the guy would just bring the supplies to them, offload the supplies, and head back to base.
Okay.
So similarities like those.
Yeah, so basically you're the one that will push supplies up to the front lines, basically.
Yeah.
Or, obviously just behind the front lines to keep people able to push forward and not, basically not getting stuck and not being able to respawn close to the front lines or, build some defenses, etc. So yeah, okay. So that's actually quite an important role, especially on some of the maps, which are quite large, to say the least. Like some of them, if you're trying to walk from one end to the other, it will take you not take you forever, but it will, in game time, considering, like, what is the average game, like, what is the length of, or the max length of a game time? So, say not either amount of teams run out of tickets, but the timer runs out. Like, is there actually a timer, or is it just you keep going until a team runs out of tickets?
I don't know, it's a natural timer to actually complete the game, so regardless, it will finish off.
Do we have the numbers for that? Like, is it 20 minutes, half an hour?
Depending on the game mode, I can't recall by heart. Legenda, would you know?
I don't actually remember. Because most of the time games don't finish off by time, they finish off by the tickets. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was sort of asking. I didn't know whether there was actually an option for it. I would imagine it did have a time limit. But I'm guessing you could also set that in your settings anyway. So if we do it and we find that maybe games are either ending too quickly or something like that, we can up the tickets and you can finagle all those sort of settings anyway. So is that basically all the rules that you can think of that should definitely be noted?
Yeah, everything else is really small. Like,
Okay.
I just want to cover the big ones.
Yeah,
the
yeah, no.
ones that I really just slam my foot down with. But yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, from there, I guess does anybody want to add anything about the rules? Like maybe do they feel like they're okay? Do they feel like they're too strict? Is there anything that you think really, really needs to be enforced about what was said?
I think so. Pretty much pretty good so far. But there was this kind of squad tradition kind of thing that they were roll with. How do I say this? Vehicles, especially like more specialist vehicles for like armored personnel carriers. Bradley's tanks, they would form their own squad themselves and have a crew lead to lead them all. Use those specific vehicles, and only crew members can you have access to those.
Yeah, I feel like that would be good because then for a fact that the
Who's
people that are
taking
taking,
what?
yeah, who's taking what, and the people that are taking those roles are taking it with the whole, like saying, look, I want to do this, like I want to, be in some form, being in a tank or an IFV, or even just one of the really small like APC things. Like they're putting themselves forward to say, I'm going to do that role. You don't just get someone that just goes, oh, I'll do it because it's needed. It's like people that are like, I want to do this.
Or in some cases, like some of my games today, no one ended up going in armor assets.
Yeah.
And we just got rolled over by the enemy's armored.
Yeah, like I found a couple of games that I've played in when the similar things happen, nobody's taken armor. And your anti-armor's doing what it can, but eventually, infantry's only going to do so much against, any sort of armor that can sit back and just start plinking people away. So yeah, like I feel like having armor is definitely, especially if you find the opposition having armor, like sometimes even if you're not confident or not even like maybe you don't feel like you're the best at it, still doing it for the simple fact of just having that threat of armor suddenly stops an advance quite quickly. Like infantry won't, if they know you've got no armor, infantry will just push through you. They will just keep going forward. If they suddenly hear a vehicle, people tend to just go, "Uh-oh." And there's that, like, even if it's just for like a second, that pause of, I can't walk around this corner because there could very much be an Abrams staring at me. And it sort of makes people play a bit more cautiously, which in squad you still have to play quite cautiously anyway. Like, you can have play, like, at times on certain maps you can like run and gun in a way, but it's not like your Call of Duties or your Battlefields where you can just be sprinting around all the time, drop round a corner and just shoot down 3 guys and then just run off again. Like, that's not how that works. So like go on.
I was gonna say it's just more of a more slower, methodical.
Yeah, like when
way of
you're
doing
clearing through a sector, you actually have to clear it. You can't really sweep through it because a lot of the times you'll miss a guy or two, and that guy will then have his squad spawn near him or close to him, and he'll like relay your position to his squad, and you'll just get completely blindsided. And I feel like that's kind of good because it stops, like, obviously it slows everything down a bit more for the people that aren't necessarily that good at things like the Call of Duties or the Battlefields, where it is quite fast paced. It is like it can get quite overwhelming. Which in squad there are times where it gets overwhelming as well. You've got mortars landing all around you. You've got explosions going off. You've got your squad lead screaming in your ear. Like it does give you almost that feel of being somewhat close to what a real battle zone is in that regard. So yeah, from that, like, is there any like last bits that any of you guys want to mention about squad in general, whether it's our server or just squad in general before we open it up to the people that are obviously in the channel?
Nah, I got nothing more.
That's it from me.
I suppose the only bit for me would be if people are new to squad, one thing you will have to get used to is you will most likely be killed a lot and you won't know where from. It's just one of these games where you do have to practice. Just experience will build you up and up, so you can actually start seeing where things are.
Yeah,
just a general squad thing. Sorry.
Yeah,
you mentioned that.
that's fine. Yeah, yeah. I feel like the motto of squad should be, "Where the fuck did I get hit from?" Like, because that is said and heard in certain different ways so much. Like, I find myself saying it so much when I'm playing the game. Like, everything will be quiet, and then all of a sudden I'll just get a bullet through my skull, and I'm like, what? Like, everything was quiet. I could hear the birds chirping, the rabbits jumping around, and all of a sudden I'm dead. And you're just like, well, there you go. So
and then your nearest friendly is 80 meters somewhere.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you see that, and the nearest friendly is 300 meters away. It's like, oh, well, I'll just click that button and just respawn and lose a ticket. So, yeah, it is very frustrating for new people. But once you can push through that, if you're able to push through that, the game is actually a lot of fun. Especially when you can get a group of people together. It doesn't have to be the 8 to 10. I think max is 9 in a squad. Like,
Yes.
you don't have to get 9 people together. You can get 4 or 5, and if you 4 or 5 stick together and work together like as a proper squad, you can take out squads of 9 people. Like, you're able to do enough damage. You almost turn into almost, I guess, I wouldn't call it quite like a Spec Ops or like a SEAL team or anything like that, but you do sort of, you're able to be a bit more sneaky with things, and you maybe you're a bit more of a flanking thing rather than a try and bash the door down with your forehead repeatedly sort of thing. So, but yeah, so for like, if that's everything from everybody.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yep.
We should probably just move into questions with the remaining time we
Okay,
have.
so first off, we're gonna start with just anybody that's got any questions about Squad, whether it's about the server or anything like that. I'll read out any questions that are said and obviously pass it on to everybody else, so the people that are watching this on YouTube or on stream right now can sort of understand what we're answering, so it's not just a random answer. So yeah, if any of you guys that are here have got any questions in TeamSpeak, feel free to type them up now. Give it sort of a couple of minutes that people think. Okay, so question is, since it was stated that squad leads must have a microphone, does that mean members of the squad aren't needed to talk at all? So what do we think of that? Like, is that a ruling that the squad, like, you should preferably have a microphone, or are we making it that you should have a microphone?
Well, we didn't really think about that question at all.
On that one, sorry, there you go.
Yeah, the main idea with that rule was the fact that if you're squad leading, it's going to be pretty hard to communicate with your squad without actually, using a microphone. So you can't really, actually communicate with squads or your own squad members. It's kind of pointless. But, I mean, if a squad member doesn't have one, I mean, again, like there's other rules in the rules where you need to like at least understand and speak and understand the language that's English currently in the server. If you can understand that and act accordingly with the squad lead, I think there's no problem with that as of yet. I mean, if the problem arises where literally no one is talking in the squad and they don't have microphones at all, then we can add it as a rule. But as of yet, in my eyes, I don't see it as an issue.
Okay, so you would say that you don't have to talk if you're just a normal squad member, but it'd be really, really helpful if you did.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so go on, Garfield.
So it's one of those things of you could have a sort of mediocre player who can talk to you, or you could have a really good player who stays silent the whole time and you get no information from him. In a way, yes, they do have the positives and negatives to it, both sides of it, but in a way, having the person who can talk does mean that if something happens to your squad lead and they're the one that gets automatically given the squad lead, then they can sort of talk that one through.
That's where I differ from you two. I think it's vital to have a microphone because, especially in close quarters, you could tell your teammates where the enemy is, and also, not to mention, it's just rude not to thank the medic that just picked you up or any teammate that picked you up.
Yeah,
No, that's my opinion.
Yeah, everybody, positive reinforcement helps in all forms of life, especially online gaming. Like, there's a lot of negativity around, online gaming, how people can be online. So sometimes being to a medic, just a simple "okay, thanks," or something like that, just makes them more likely to come and help you again, even if it is a bit more of a riskier one. Whereas, if you just, I mean, even if you don't say anything, the medic should still be trying to do his job. Yeah, like, it definitely will get you in their good book. That's for sure.
So if they find a pile of bodies, they might come to you first.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And as well,
Go on.
I suppose just finish that one off. The other bit as well is, yes, generally if you're in the squad, you'll only really be talking to your own squad, but there is a local chat function as well, so you can then talk to other squads who may be looking in a different area without having to wait for it to get filtered all the way up to their squad lead, across to yours, and filter back down to you. So it's a way to also get a bit quicker information depending on what the situation is. So, for example, if you just all come back in at the respawn fob, then you can sort of organise sort of what's going on there, especially if that's under fire. Chances are your squad lead might not be there, and it's a way sort of to hold the line and defend the position and defeat the enemy.
Yeah. So okay. So any other questions from people about the squad? Oh, second question. Go. Is there any planned squad layout like the squads we have in our armor server, or are they technically free to be determined by the squad leader?
It's completely free because we can have templates where you can start in as a squad lead or rifleman LAT, or rifleman medic. Basically, how it works is a guy just makes squad whenever you join the server and pick a side, and then when you make heads squad, like of course when you make the squad, you have to be the squad leader and pick the set squad lead role. But when other people join, they need to fill out like the what can you say, like the backbone or the foundation of the squad, can you say? Like you need to pick like some riflemen, auto rifleman gets opened as well, including medic. So like once like a couple of these slots have been taken, I can't say how many though, but once a couple have been taken, they open up for other slots like LAT.
Any AT and grenadiers and
Yeah,
heavy auto rifle.
LAT, heavy AT, marksman, heavy machine gunner, or even like another rifleman role, or auto rifleman role, I mean, sorry, or a combat engineer. So yeah, all this can get opened from just having more people in the squad. But yeah, like the smaller the squad is, the more restrictions you have upon like the
Loadouts.
classes. The classes and loadouts you can pick. So yeah, the more people you have, the more you can pick. Just a good idea is to, of course, listen to your squad lead, because the squad lead will tell you, hey, we're gonna need, AT because we're all like riflemen. And we also need a medic because we're all riflemen. So yeah, that's where also the listen to squad lead rule comes in play as well.
Okay. So yeah, basically, long story short, if your squad lead asks or says, "Hey, we need this," feel free, take it upon yourself to take said thing. So obviously, if you're getting rolled by armor and your squad lead goes, "Hey, look, we need some more AT," then jump into an AT thing. Like it is very much under the discretion of your squad lead. Although you can also take it upon yourself if you notice something that your squad lead doesn't say anything, doesn't stop you from taking it anyway. So if you notice that your squad's getting rolled by armor a lot, don't wait for your squad lead to tell you. Like that is the good thing about squad, is that you can do things on the fly yourself to help the squad in general.
So the only thing to be somewhat careful of is for some things there are limits of you can only have 3 of this type of thing, which does include things like your AT, heavy machine gunner, marksman. So if you end up taking up those slots in, say, 2 marksmen and a heavy machine gunner, then you start to have to start looking at things, or basically getting one of the marksmen out of their marksman slot, just so you can have AT.
Yeah, so it does sometimes. Somebody has to bite the bullet every now and then. If you it obviously depends how you want to do it. If you really want to try and win, then obviously you bite the bullet and you take a role that's needed. And other times, some people just won't, because once again, that is the nature of online gaming sometimes, which is it is what it is. Any more questions about squad, or should we move it on to any other business type thing to talk more about? I guess questions about the FK community as a whole.
For me.
Anybody else in the chat want to ask any squad questions, or should we move on? I'll give it like a minute just to be sure, see if anybody's typing anything up right now. And obviously anybody in stream chat that might want to ask that isn't in this channel, I am looking, so. Okay, it doesn't seem to be anything. Right. Okay. So we'll move it on to like I guess what we'll call any other business. So people in the TeamSpeak channel, if you guys want to ask questions about the community, in general, preferably serious questions, so we can actually try and answer them for you. Go ahead right now. Anything from anyone, or are we good
I
to
guess
call
we're
it for
done.
tonight?
Yeah.
I'll give it another 30 seconds to be safe in case somebody's typing out a really long question. Okay, so somebody in my stream chat asked as towards us, how would we want to deal with the negativity that we have of people saying that maybe this community was better in the past? Like, how would you guys want to deal with that? Obviously, I know for someone like you, Garfield, you don't really know what it was like in the past because obviously you've been here how long now?
November last year.
Yeah, so okay, so you've been here almost a year now. Holy shit, that's flown by.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously I think a lot of them talk more about like sort of 18 months, 2 years ago, sort of length of time. So yeah, how would you guys, I guess, do that? Sort of how would you handle it?
It's a tough question to say. Because usually I don't mind people speaking this. I mean, it depends.
I mean,
Because it all depends on the context.
yeah, I mean, I will say that obviously people are entitled to their opinions. That's perfectly fine. Like, and I understand that some people do prefer how it was before, whether it's because the people that were around back then, or how things were done back then, whether it was more laid back, or it was more that people knew what they could and couldn't get away with. So there wasn't so many rules that had to be enforced or even put in place. And to a degree, I do agree, but what I do disagree with is people screaming all the time about how things were so much better back in the
It
day.
wasn't. It
Like
really wasn't.
it's not like better, and obviously once again better is subjective, but it was it's a thing of people are obviously going to have their own opinion, which is fine, but I don't agree that things were as better as some people seem to make it out it was. Like, I feel like sometimes when people talk about it, and maybe this is just me like reading wrong into how they're saying it or what they're saying, but they almost make it sound like it was a utopia or like an absolute heaven when it wasn't even remotely close to that, and no community is ever going to be close to that when you've got as many members as we have or had, especially back then, that were getting on reliably every single day. You're going to have clashes of personalities, thoughts, opinions, all that sort of stuff. You're going to get that no matter where you go. Like Garfield, you might have a good idea of this, of obviously coming over from, or sort of
BSO.
merging it as BSO. Like, how was BSO in comparison to what you found here over the past almost year time?
I think the main bit is sort of this. Well, here it's a bigger place with more people. The thing with the BSO was it was a sort of 15, 20 people, and that was pretty much the rough numbers you'd get every week. So, and because it was pretty much always the same people, you sort of got to know how people reacted to things, and then you didn't quite often having people to the same squad week in week out. So you end up knowing how the squad ends up working, which is a sort of different thing to what you get here.
Yeah.
Just because of the nature of the beast in a way.
Yeah, like you think, as you said, you got 15, 20 people. I mean, if I just look on our TeamSpeak right now, we have 71 people connected. We have 3 times more than you would.
Mhm.
And I'm guessing 20 would be a good day for you.
Yeah, I mean, in its heyday, it was you talking sort of 40, 50 people on a somewhat regular basis, but that ended up sort of dropping away just because there was a streamer who was following around who no longer plays Armor. He then moved away, and then quite a few people sort of lost the interest over time as well, just because we played so much of it over since release, pretty much.
Yeah, and obviously, you have to take a look into Armor is a game that, player base wise, is very slowly on the decline because it was 6 years old a couple of weeks ago. Was it the 6 year anniversary? I don't want to get this number wrong.
Sounds about right.
But so it's a 6-year-old game. To have the amount of players that it's got on it still anyway, after 6 years, is an accomplishment in itself.
It's up there.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. Like, and to have people that turn up every day, like we have here, even on like bad days, we still get circa like it's sort of around 30 people, give or take a few either way. And for that to be done like every single day, I don't know too many other games that, in my personal experience, that I've had for that long, and I've seen that consistently stay like a group, like that amount of a group of people. But yeah, so how we deal with that, people are entitled to their opinions. It's more that they have to make sure that they don't borderline sort of shit talk the community, because if they do, then it's not going to look good on us. It's not really going to look good on them either. So it's have your opinions. If you dislike the place, fine. There's nothing we can really do about that.
I mean, the door's right there if you don't like
it. It is kind of that way. Yeah, obviously we don't want people to leave, but if you're not happy with what's going on here, then there's not really a lot more we can do in that regard. And obviously, then you take it upon yourself of whether you want to, try and make the fun out of this place as you do. And bearing in mind, obviously, you don't have to leave the community as a whole. If you don't want to play Armor anymore because you don't like the way we play Armor, or that you don't like the rules for Armor, then that's fine. There's nothing stopping you staying on the TeamSpeak and playing other games. Like, we've got so many other games that we have, clans in, or guilds in, or fleets, whatever game it is, and whatever like that group thing is called. So yeah, like there's nothing stopping you from sticking around and just enjoying the time with the friends you've made here, just not in Armor. So people want to talk about how it was back in the old days. That's fine. Just be sort of courteous with how you do it, because in a way, without this place, you wouldn't have met some of the people that you've met on here. Some good, some bad, obviously, but you wouldn't be where I don't want to say you wouldn't be where you are today, because obviously that makes it sound like you've had this place has such a profound hit on some people, which for some people it may have done, but yeah, I'm not going to talk as a whole. But yeah, so just people want it to be like the old days. Sadly, that's not going to happen. Can't really help that, to be fair. So we'll move on to any other questions from anyone. TeamSpeak, chat, anything? I'll leave it up for like another 30 seconds or a minute before we end it. No? Okay, right. We'll end it there then. Thank you guys for anybody that came to watch, and obviously the people in TeamSpeak that came to listen. Obviously thank you to Garfield, Legendo, and Slick for dropping in and helping me fill the air, because I certainly wouldn't be able to do it myself. But yeah, so thank you guys very much for hanging out and listening to the podcast. And yeah, next one should be done in about a month's time. We're going to try and release it monthly. We'll be on various topics. We may open up eventually a thing where people can suggest topics we talk about. But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed. Obviously this is hopefully going to be the first of many. And yeah, so we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.